on, what is it, September 1986. Okay.
That is the picture that I picked up out of the paper, 1980, just about the time I started school, or in about, see, that I was born 1911, and that is 1918 years down near the bottom it tells you.
Can you identify?
Oh, yeah.
Could you
I
identify?
a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them to living yet.
Do you know who has this picture? The original picture?
No, I don't. That is, Selena Pickett, and that is Emma Bauman. She's still living. That's Amy Mosley.
Now, is this the Poplar Springs School?
That's right, Poplar Springs.
And were you in here?
No, I wasn't.
You were
I don't
just
know
a little
why
too
I
young.
wasn't in that. Even my brother's not in it. And there's Leon Pickett. He's 82 years old now. 82, I think, yeah.
Where's the
No, wait.
teacher? Do you recognize her?
Who?
The teacher? Was
No, I don't recognize her.
Did you submit the names and win a prize?
No, I didn't. I didn't do that. But I figured out a lot of them.
That's
since
interesting.
then. And, well,
Where was that school?
up the road here about a mile.
Is it gone?
Oh, yes. It's, my cousin bought it and tore it down and built a house there on the corner of that beach road.
Then where do the youngsters go? Lisbon?
Lisbon.
Into Lisbon.
Yeah.
And after that school was torn down, is that where they started going then?
I went there until I graduated in 7th grade. That was in 1926, I guess. And then I went to Lisbon to high school. And we had our 55th anniversary last June at Fisherman's Inn down below the Bay Bridge.
Did you go 4 years to high school?
Yeah.
At Lisbon?
Yeah.
It was a 4-year high
That's
school
right,
then.
4 years high school. And it was 8 of us out of 12 was at
At 55 years.
55
That's
years.
pretty good. How many of those were boys and how many were girls of the 12 that graduated?
It was 5 boys and 5 girls and
7?
7 boys, yes, I guess.
And then
yes, sir.
the 8 who came to the reunion.
Dorothy. Was that right, Tara, isn't it?
The ones who came to the reunion then, of the 8, how many boys and how many girls?
1, 2, well, there they are.
I can see
1,
you.
2, 3, 4, and then 5. This one and this one is the girls, and then this one and this one and these 2 girls.
2, 4, so there were 6 girls, and then you and just one other fellow that...
No,
Or,
it was, this is William Henderson, this is Stuart Pendle, and this is myself.
right.
And
Now, wait, who is this other man? What's his name?
he's William Henderson.
And he was one of the graduates?
Oh, yes,
William
yes.
Henderson.
And he had us down there.
Oh, that's his, is that his
Yeah.
restaurant?
No, he's a county agent down in Delaware.
Ah.
And that's
And then
where he
Stuart
had it.
Pindell, you said?
Yes, he's in Towson, and Harry Wilkinson, and
And yourself?
Robert Woolfield. We've never known anything of him. He surely passed away. And Monroe Schlegel.
And he's gone?
No, he's living in Florida, but he wasn't there. And Dorothy Justice, she's another girl, but she's not living either.
So, but most of your class is still living.
That's right.
Isn't that good, healthy living out here in Poplar Springs?
Well,
Isn't that nice?
Harry Wilkinson's living in Balmer, Stuart Pendleton Towson, he's in Delaware, and she's near Towson, and she's lived down in Howard County near Clarksville.
So all of you
Sure.
are in your 70s now, or
pretty
when
close
this
to
was
that.
done, if 55
yes,
years.
every bit, because I'm 75 in July.
You were, right. So
Yeah.
most of you were
That's
that
right.
age.
That is the house I was raised in. Of course, it was
Across
built,
the
that's
road.
right, it was built in 1919.
This is 1946.
Yes, that's when it was taken.
Is that a brick house?
Oh, yes, it's a solid brick house.
And who built it? Did your father?
No, my uncle built it. And,
What was his name?
John Fleming.
Uh-huh.
And it was built during the war. And it was the first time that anybody had ever paid $1 an hour for bricklayers.
Well, that was a good salary, wasn't it?
Yes,
During
sir.
World War One.
Yes. Right.
Well, 1919, of course, the war was ending about
That's
that
right.
time.
Just about the time it ended, 1919.
So prices were higher.
That's right.
Then.
That was built in 1919.
That was a good $1 an hour for
Yeah,
bricklayers. Back then, $1 a day was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
For-
But that is three rows of bricks downstairs and 2 up. That is a solid brick house.
It is.
Yeah. And the lumber was, the framing inside of that was sawed down on the place as chestnut lumber.
That'll stand forever if they don't tear it down.
Oh,
You think they're
yeah.
going to tear it down?
No, it's still
Is it safe?
everything taken care of.
And how was it laid, like this, or it's not deep, it's,
What's that?
the bricks are laid
Oh,
like
they
this.
was laid flat.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 layers on the first floor and 2 layers on the second floor.
To support the top,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And your uncle, was he in the building business, or was
Yes,
he?
he was a carpenter.
He was, and that's
Yeah.
how he knew how to build
Yes.
so well.
And his 3 sons is building carpenters. They're all gone now.
Uh-huh.
They was around my age.
They were all Flemings, and they
That's right.
worked around this area in
That's
Howard
right.
County?
All worked around this area. And the last of it, Jj Fleming, he was the last one that lived. He was in building inspector in Howard County for the last several years ago.
After he stopped building himself.
Yeah, before he retired. Well, he had a hernia operation and he couldn't work at that kind of work anymore, so he was building inspector.
How many bedrooms did this house have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bedrooms and a bath upstairs. And 4
Five.
rooms
Mm.
downstairs.
And when it was built in 1919, they put an indoor bath?
No,
Or,
the
no?
bath wasn't put in until 1939. And I helped to put the bathroom in there. A fellow by the name of George Condon and I put the bathroom in that in 1939.
Before that, you had to go outdoors?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you do for baths? In the kitchen, or what did you
We
do?
went up in this room, we used the
Bathtub,
pan.
wash tub and things like that. That's where you did the bathroom.
You had to carry the water up
Oh,
there?
yes, yes. No,
Or-
there was a ram down near the spring that pumped water up from the top of that house. And when that was only a 5-gallon tank,
Was it
we
in the
draw
attic
more.
of the house? Was there a storage tank in the attic of the
Yeah,
house?
no, well, up
Wow.
on the second floor.
I-
And that was only a small tank, a 5-gallon tank. And when that got full, he went down to the barn and filled the watering trough up. And when that got full, if it wasn't using it, it would overflow in a pipe and go down to the hog house where it had the hogs. And then when that got full, it would overflow there and go on back to the branch. To the creek.
Now, was that a ram run by electricity? or-
No, that was run by water power. It was no power but the water. It's just the force of the water come in there and work that plunger that pumped the water. It was slow.
Uh-huh.
It pumped slow. That's the reason it pumped night and day.
Aye.
But it would, when you wasn't using the water, see, if you used more than 5 gallons, it would run awful slow.
Mhm.
But
How about in the kitchen? Did they have a separate pump in the
oh
a hand
no,
pump?
no, it's just a spigot.
It all works
Gravity
from this
deep.
ram.
Yeah, that's right. And that's water that had in there for years. All the time I was, you might say, what was I was separated. I was born 1911 and in 1919, you see. All the time I was raised, we was in that house. We had that water supply.
What did you live in from the time you were born till
Well, it was another house down below that was torn down.
a frame house, an
Frame.
older frame
Old
house?
frame house. And that was, on the weatherboarding on it was white pine. And you don't see it was 18 inches wide
Oh,
and more.
that was
Yeah,
something. When you put your bathroom in, did you have a septic field or
Oh, yeah.
what? Is that what they,
Oh, yes, I had to put a septic tank and all in then.
and then just one bathroom on the upstairs?
That's right, yeah. And after I bought the farm, I put one downstairs when I had for a year.
You bought your father's farm?
Yes.
But you didn't raise your family here.
No.
You went on, you bought another farm.
I had that. I was living up on the other farm at the time.
I see.
That was the same year my father died.
And then, did you rent the family house out?
My son lived in part of it for a while until I sold it to Brooks Lee, and then we built a house up on the farm for him.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Did you have how many brothers and sisters?
Two brothers.
And no
one of
sisters.
them lived here, and he died in 1970. He was 5 years younger than I am. And I have another brother who's 4 years older than I am. He lives down right across from St. Michael's Church Road.
And did they all farm?
Oh, yeah.
Too?
Well, my brother, older brother, he had a farm
What's his
down
name?
here.
The
Charles Fleming.
Charles.
And but my brother here, he lived with my father and all and helped on the farm
Helped
there.
on his farm.
And that's when 1939, when he got married, is when we put the bathroom in.
I see.
And they had apartment upstairs. So we made one of the bedrooms in the kitchen and put the bathroom all in there.
Right. Very nice. So you do have a few old family pictures, right?
That's right. Now, you might, if you'd be interested, that is
Right.
my grandfather and my grandmother that had the house here on the corner.
Okay, now this picture is grandmother and grandfather Pickett.
That's right.
This
They're
is
my
your
mother's
parents,
yes.
and the date on this picture is 1920.
Yes, I
right?
didn't never notice that, but that's got to be right. That's got to be right.
And so this is Mr. Pickett,
That's right.
and what
He's
was,
been the bailiff of Harris County Court.
is that what he was? The Pickett name, is familiar. There are,
Did you know that Pickett's in Clarksville?
Hardy Pickett, I know.
This
Oh, yeah,
father-
that's his grandson.
This is his grandfather too?
Yes.
And it's your grandfather, so you're
That's right.
cousins?
That's right, yes. Raymond Pickett was Hardy's father.
And that was his other
And then
son.
there was Arthur Pickett and Kenneth Pickett and Walter Pickett. They was all brothers.
All brothers.
And Norman Pickett, he was from Cherry Run. But they was all their children. And then it was three, my mother and Aunt Annie and Aunt Grace.
All the
All-
Picketts. Now, where did the Picketts live?
They was all raised right here on this corner.
Here at Poplar Springs.
That's right, yeah.
Now, is that house standing?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
still, and he's got a
Yes.
picture of it when the fence around.
That was years ago. I don't know what the date's on the back of that when that was there, but that was years before I can remember anything much.
And what was C.D.
C.D.
Pickett? What
Pickett.
was his
That's
first name?
it. Charles D. Pickett.
And-
His father come back from the Civil War, built a log cabin over here on St. Michael's Church Road, just at the corner of Florence and St. Michael's, and the building is still standing. It's pretty dilapidated now.
Charles Pickett's father.
That's right.
Do you have any idea what his name was?
Oh, you got it in the book
In the
there.
family Bible?
And he built this log cabin.
What
and-
side did he fight in the Civil War? Do you know whether he was northern or southern?
No, I don't.
You never.
But he come back from Civil War, built this log cabin, contracted pneumonia, and died at the age of 25 before my grandfather was born.
So was he the only child
He
then?
was the only child.
Oh, wow. And who did Charles Pickett marry? What was?
She was Wharton,
How do you spell that last name?
W-R-T-H-E-N,
Okay.
Wharton.
What was her first name?
Catherine.
Catherine. Was she from this area?
Oh, right down below Lisbon. You're right back at Lisbon.
Uh-huh.
There, I don't know whether you know Warren Stricker had her. You know Warren Stricker?
Yes.
Well, he had the farm that she was raised on.
John
Okay.
Thomas Pickett.
John Thomas Pickett.
Does it say if he was a Confederate or a Union soldier?
No, they
No.
don't, I know they
I don't
don't tell you that, but I'm not sure. It's,
And he died then as a very young man on having just the one child.
that's right, yeah, and he wasn't born, he died before he was born.
And then this man, did you say he did farm, or did he have a business?
No, he kept store at Florence, and he had a store over in part of this house too.
And at Florence, what, was it just a general store?
Yes, a general store. And this is his mother.
Well, that's his mother. That's
Yeah.
Mrs. Pickett.
That's-
Mrs. John Pickett then.
That's right. And that's the house, part of the house. These are the same two houses you're looking at. But I can't remember, you know how long that could have been. I can't remember this lattice working all around, and I'm 75 years old.
So it was probably sometime in the last century
That's
that
right,
was there.
yes.
And you say the house is still standing?
Oh, yes, it's still standing.
Is that a stucco house?
No, it's been it's had lumen siding put on it in the last few years.
But what was it underneath?
It was, it was weatherboarding, and then it had shingles put on it halfway up, wooden shingles, and they've been on there ever since I was a kid. And they got so thin, wore out, that they was just real thin. But they put lumen siding over it since.
And does it front on 144, or does it front on Watersville?
Watersville and 144.
No, the front is on.
On
One
144.
front's on 144, yeah.
Did Charles Pickett build the house?
No,
It was there.
no, I don't know who built it, but I do know that that was one of the first houses built in Poplar Spring. And this second house up here is Horton's, was Bluehart's. It was built about the same time. That-
One of the oldest houses.
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah.
know, I was telling your wife, I think, when I was talking to her, that Poplar Springs is one of the oldest communities. It's on the map in 1795. There were people here, you know, almost 200 years ago.
That's right.
And I wondered if there's anything standing from that very early time.
That would be the oldest.
Can we look at that, walk up there?
Oh,
or
yes,
something
yes,
after?
yes. Now, it's an old house that was torn down below here where we call the filling station. We say it's not a filling station now. But that was an old house that tore down. And then when I was a kid, there was a hotel up there on top of the hill. And it was a big, long building with that they used for a hotel. People traveling back and forth on the road visit there. And people would come out Bauman on vacation on the train, and they'd horse and buggy and bring them out here, and they'd stay out here at these places.
At the hotel.
A hotel, yeah. And that was a big, I remember when that burnt down.
You remember that people would come out here for their vacation. Would they come for the summer or for a week?
Well, I
or-
don't know, it's before my time enough, so I don't know.
Don't
that.
remember that.
But then also, it was another hotel on the other hill where the saloon is at now.
And
That was a big hotel, and that burned down too. I remember when both burned down.
were you a young man
Oh, I
when
was,
they
I was
before you were
just a boy.
married?
I'm not sure, because I remember seeing it, but they wouldn't let me go near it.
And no, there was no way to fight the fires then, I guess.
No, that's right.
They just let them burn. Do you remember, did anybody get hurt in those fires? Or
Not that I know
it
of.
wasn't a tragedy of that?
No.
That what?
I'm
You're
from
from Mount,
that area.
well, Mount Airy's had some bad fires too. I was reading how half of the town, I think Mr. Shipley was telling me. Yes, Mr. Shipley was telling me that how the fire departments would help one another when these little towns had fires. And Mount Airy didn't have a fire department, and then they raised money and bought.
Yeah, now this house, it was the parsonage in 1920, before 1925.
Here, for what church?
That was right down
For Poplar, Long Corner, Ridgefield, Poplar, Jennings Chapel, and Union Chapel.
And the pastor for all of that circuit lived in this house?
That was before 25.
I see. And that
And-
house is still standing?
No, that burned
That
down
burned
sometime in, this
After
is
30.
30, and after that, sometime after that, this burned down.
Now, you don't know who this girl is, but you know this is Paul
Me.
Bauman. Well, that's one of her earlier boyfriends, huh?
That's a friend.
What year were you two married then?
32.
32. Soon after he caught you with this other man, right?
I was his sister.
Oh, you were friends. Then that house just burnt down.
The house
Well,
that they lived in is across the road. That is still her.
the Bauman House. These hotels, they were just plain, simple frame buildings, the best you can remember.
That's all right, 'cause I was never in them.
And did you ever see any pictures? Did anybody ever have any?
No, I've never seen any pictures of them.
And they would go up to the railroad track, somebody from the hotel with the horse and buggy.
That's right.
Pick the
and
people up.
People pick them, bring them back.
Well, now, did a lot of people, if they were hotels, people had to be cooking and working at the hotel. Did you know anybody who?
No, that was before my time. I couldn't
Right.
tell you anything about those things.
Right.
Now, this is a later picture. This is my brother when he was about 7 or 8 years old, of this same house up here.
Now, which brother?
My youngest brother,
What's his name?
Raymond.
Raymond, okay.
And this is his cousin, Catherine Mary.
Now, is that your cousin too?
Yes.
Right. Is she still living?
Oh, yeah, she's
Catherine
she's in Frederick. Her husband works for the undertaker.
Now, is that
This is the same house,
same
yes.
And now, where is 144 Frederick Road?
Right in front of here.
It's-
Right across here in front of here.
Now, that was US 40 when you were growing up.
Oh, yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
it? Was there
Until
lots of traffic?
1953, it was still 140.
Uh-huh. And was there lots of traffic then?
Oh, my. It was just lined up all the way, all the time, especially on Sundays. You couldn't, you just had to wait, just go along with the traffic. You couldn't pass nobody, nothing else, there was so much traffic.
Where were people going? Just to church or outside?
Well, it was-
Something, I guess.
At that time, when they got automobiles, that was in 25 and 30, you see, they had got automobiles, and even up to 25 and 30 and 40s. And this is the main road, you got all the transportation, trucks and everything like it.
How about adjacent to how here, were there motels and restaurants that have been torn down?
Well,
Or-
now, this is the one I showed you, that went into a motel. This is,
That, on that property?
yeah, that's Homestead Inn. That had went as a Homestead Inn.
After it was a parsonage?
That's
or-
right, and it
Then
sold.
somebody, it was sold?
Yeah.
And then they opened it as like a tourist home.
Yes, right. Homestead Tourist.
And then after the road moved over, did it close or had it burned?
Oh, that was closed, burnt before that, long before that. You know, it was, you might say 5 or 6 years in between there that it was only used as a homestead inn and then burned down.
I see. Did it, you remember that burning?
Oh, yes, I remember
You
that
remember
burning.
that.
Because I was old enough, I cleaned the foundation out and helped to build a house back on that same foundation. And that has burned down since then.
My.
And
What
another
caused all
one.
these fires? Did they ever find out, why, how come so many buildings burned down? Was it
Well,
candles or was
They
it?
never said.
They never knew. But I helped to build the first house back on there, and then that burned down, and there's been another one built back on there since. That was the first year I guess that was the first year we was married, wasn't it? I worked
Well,
on that.
Mrs. Fleming, what was your maiden name? What?
Buxton.
Buxton. And this Mr. Bauman that's in that picture, is he still living?
Yeah.
No, he died young.
Oh, is that right? He never married then? He just,
His older brother just died 2 months ago. That was
Albert woman.
now, was this your photo album? Would you let him show me some other pictures in there? Are there any others from this area? Now here, who's Amos Mollinex?
He said he's one lives up here where Spalding's garage, above Spalding's garage at.
Were you a young girl there?
Mm-hmm.
And that was his first car
First
or something?
car.
Mr. Mollinex's first
Mhm.
car. When did you get your first car? Mr.
In 1930, it's in here.
Oh, it is. Okay.
That's her, your brother, isn't it?
Professor?
And that's both.
Was he?
He played in the band.
Oh. What kind of a
Mad Air
band?
Band. It used to be the Mad Air Band, then he went in the Brownsville Band, now he plays in the church of,
What was he playing? What instrument?
I mean, trumpet.
Trumpet.
She can tell you
You
more
went down to
about
Mount
that.
Vernon
Mhm.
here. I
Mhm.
recognize that.
Mhm.
Was this a class
That's my
picnic?
place.
High school?
Mm-hmm.
And that was, what high school was that?
That was in Lisbon.
Oh, you came from Mount Airy and went
I went
to...
from Mad Air and to Lisbon and...
Now, were you in that class? You
No,
were a
he-
little
he
bit
had me.
older.
Here.
Okay.
That's in Mad Air.
And this is you?
Mhm.
Is that your brother?
Jack Steele.
Oh. I better not get him angry, right? You were such a pretty girl, I'm sure that he knew you.
That's some girls at Lisbon School.
Oh, that's
Uh-huh.
mine. It is.
This is Aubrey's brother. That's Aubrey, and that's Aubrey's brother. That's when we was first met.
And which one
That's
is you?
This is me over here.
Okay, and is this...
This is my cousin that died with pneumonia years ago. She didn't live much after that.
Oh, is that right? This is your brother, Charles.
Mhm. And this
Yeah.
is his other brother, Raymond.
Oh, oh.
And then, are these your brothers and sisters?
No,
or-
that's brother to him, and this is my younger sister.
Edna. Uh-huh. There you are at Mount Vernon. Was that a school trip
Yeah.
from
Lisbon.
Lisbon High School? Like seniors? Did the seniors take a
Yeah,
trip?
we just took in the cars. That's my brother-in-law.
Uh-huh.
That's a
There's
group
your
that went.
biology.
This is
Wow.
teacher from Mad Air class.
From Mount
That
Airy.
was Mad Air group, because this is Rick. She's a
Did you
teacher.
go to school in Mount
Mhm.
Airy too?
Yeah, I went to Mad Air until we moved to Harrod County,
Oh,
and then I had to go to
okay.
Lisbon.
So how many years did you go to Lisbon?
2 years.
2 years. Mount Airy had a high school?
Mhm.
Just before moving day. Was that before moving here or
We was moving to Long
Oh, yeah,
Corner.
they moved in there.
your family moved
Mhm.
to Long Corner? Is this when you first were dating?
Yeah.
That-
I'm 29.
That's darling.
That's over at Long Corner now.
This was the farm that you grew
Mhm.
up on? Now, this is the two of you.
That's Aubrey's car.
That's your first car?
No, that's
That's-
my father's car.
Oh, okay.
It's in there next.
Now, this was your sister?
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Clara. Is that your first name?
That's right.
Clara. Is this another boyfriend?
That's still Amos.
Amos Molinax. Oh. On this other picture, I thought he was an older man because he had
He
the
is.
hat on. He was older, but...
He is sort of old, I guess.
Are those baby opossums that
Mhm.
were around the house?
That's my car.
Dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Yeah, that's mine.
And who is Robert then?
That's a little cousin.
Of yours?
Yeah, that's all right. I didn't see him in that.
These are portable with marriage school.
Harrison. And what was your last name again?
Buxton.
Buxton.
Now, this fellow's dead too now. He's one of the Bowmans.
And they spelled it B-O-W-M-A-N because there's Bauman.
Yeah.
B-A-U.
That's my brother.
Is your brother still living?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's the one that's in the band.
Mhm.
At his church.
That's my classmates at Lisbon, and this is one of Walter's classmates.
Well,
And this is his teacher.
you've had your Mr. Ramsburg? You,
Kenneth Ramsburg, do you remember him?
well, there were Ramsburg, Alva Ramsburg. wasn't
Oh,
there?
yeah, that's a different family. He's from Frederick. He taught schools in Lisbon, and he was a county engineer in Harrod County, too, for a while.
Oh. Now, when have you had your 50th
Yeah.
anniversary from?
We didn't have any to get together, but this fellow's dead, and this fellow's dead, and I don't know that.
Well, three of them dead. Bob's dead, Son's dead, Edgar's dead.
All, and that looks like the rest are all girls. So you haven't had a...
We never had reunions. They never had any reunions.
Well, that's nice. Now, where were these taken?
This is taken at Lisbon in front of the school.
Oh,
That's a
that's that house.
across the road. I don't think that's standing now.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, the house is standing, but the church is gone. They're taking the church.
That's an area.
Area house, yeah. And this is in front of the...
You know Geneva Matthias, Geneva now?
No.
She just off the husband.
What was her last name now?
Yeah. K-N-I. Now there's one of Aubrey's paintings.
Right, he was on the picture at the reunion. Did you take some of your old pictures there to the reunion? Any of the old?
No, we didn't at this time, no.
Yeah, that's Henderson, one of his pictures.
Yes.
Every time you put yourself in there, you don't put your name. Now, you know, your grandchildren are not going to know which one's grandma. You better go back and put your name there. Is this Monroe Henderson?
Monroe Slagle.
Oh, Slagle.
In Florida.
Oh, he didn't come.
No, he didn't get to it.
Well, I thought I had no picture of my car.
This is Lawrence Lemon.
This, what school is this, or what building is that?
Was that down? Looking at
No, I don't look back on it.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a better picture of your car somewhere.
I thought I had this picture too.
This is Chevrolet that we had. I drove to school.
You drove it to school
Mm-hmm.
here, and boy, that was pretty fancy then to be able to drive a car to school,
I
wasn't
drove there since I was 15, 12.
it? Is she a pretty good driver?
Yes, yes.
Oh, those are really nice.
I think I got a picture.
And where did you buy your first car?
From Ed Butler in Mount Airy.
In Mount Airy. There was a Chevy dealer.
No, it was a Model A30, 1934.
Ford.
Yeah.
And how long did you keep that car?
Till about 39. Now, this is a picture of an accident we had on Mother's Day. This is 30. Was it 39 car, I think?
This is your car.
Yeah, it was my car, the second car I bought. And it broke the window.
What
She
year
had
was the accident?
concussion.
You can
And,
see that she hit the windshield.
That's right. I was the only one, my son and I was the only one that was in the hospital. Three of us in the hospital.
Of course, the cars were built much sturdier then.
That's
too.
right, yeah.
What did you hit, or what hit you?
Oh, we was coming out the road there, and the road was narrow, and it was on a bend, and the trees had grown out of the road, and a neighbor come around the other way, and
On the other side.
other side road and hit it. Oh, there
Oh,
it is.
that's darling. Now, this is with,
My two older children.
isn't that nice? That's
Oh,
your
yeah.
first car.
Yeah.
And now this is the boy that's,
No.
Junior, Donald
Yeah.
Jr.
And that was the other girl that lived it.
And so when was this taken? In the early 30s?
Mhm.
Yeah, your car was a 30.
30, yes, it had to be before 39.
Well, the children's age now, the little girl's about a year and a half there.
She's about 3, I guess, there.
Oh, is she
I
3?
guess. It's,
She's tiny. He looks like he's about 4.
oh, he's about 5, and she's
5.
probably 3, probably. There's about 2 years difference.
So,
She might be 5, because they wasn't going to school nothing yet.
no.
Because that's when they were still living down Poplar. That was taken down Poplar.
Okay.
We didn't move from there until 29.
No,
30.
we moved when Mildred was a baby.
You don't have a
35.
negative to that, do you, anywhere in the book?
No, no.
But I'd like to get a copy of that, but
Well, maybe that might come out, maybe.
I don't want to ruin your book. You could take it and make a copy.
Take a knife.
How about the back of the book? You're not,
I have to turn another page on that.
because I think that's an interesting, that's in the 30s. Now that was, thank you, but I'm afraid
I'll
you've got
put
another
another
page.
piece
Okay. This was as the Depression was kind of ending. Did the Depression hit the farmers as much as it did?
Oh my, yes indeedy. Of course, I was working for my father, but I bought that car and I owed $200 on it, and the banks all closed,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted the money in then. Well, it was just lucky that I had a crop of peas out, and I got enough money to pay it off.
Here's a picture of her farm.
Oh. That's a good picture. Is that the, no, that's not the one that he had in mind,
Mhm.
though.
But we had the back side, isn't
Did you have a name to your farm?
it? Hampton Court.
Hampton Court Farm.
And was it, did you call it that, or was it called that
That was
before?
called that before. It was
In the
deed.
deeds? Hampton Court?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fancy name, isn't it, for a farm?
I
You picked up the
got the old deed.
I wanted you to tell me a little more about the Depression. So you sold your crop of peas to, and did you get that much?
Oh,
for-
yes,
for it?
it was 3 acres, I had 3 acres of peas, but there's on shares, and I happened to have that enough for me to pay it off.
And that paid off your car.
Mhm.
Do you remember what you paid for that 30 Ford?
Yeah, it's $700.
700. And you financed it through the bank? What?
Well, yes, the Damascus Bank, the dealer, man took a note and then he put it in the bank.
Uh-huh. Were you raising vegetables on the farm at that time?
No,
or-
my father was shipping milk. I was working for my father,
Uh-huh.
and
You had this field of peas. Was that?
that was extra. I had that extra. I used equipment. And
Was it on your father's farm? Though?
no, it was
it
up here at the top of the hill, like another neighbor's.
and you were on shares with him.
That's right.
On
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And where did you live during the Depression? Were you in
With,
Hampton
It was
Court?
your,
with my father.
In the brick house across?
Brick house, yes.
So you had one of the, did you have an apartment or you
No,
just?
we just
lived-
lived in with the
Six
family.
bedroom.
Oh, here it is, yeah.
And then when did you move into
Uh,
Hampton?
we moved,
35.
35, we moved up here on what we call the Dove Place on the West Watersville Road and lived there 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And then after the 6 months, I rented the farm over there where we went and stayed for 27 years.
And you rented it for how many years?
7 years,
And then you bought it?
yes, and I bought it up. It was a rundown condition, and I built it up. I would buy the lime for it, and the only way I'd get the money was with the crops. When the crops come in, she paid. She wouldn't put out the money for the lime and stuff. And everything, and I'd put everything back in the place.
Sure. Did you fix up the house, too?
Oh, yes, we fixed up the house.
Did you add any additions on the house?
No, but it was all, we put drywall and all on the ceilings and things because it was logs and all showing.
Oh, when you went in, they were
Yes.
still the log
Oh,
ceiling?
yes.
That's in the older part of the house? Oh, in this older part?
That's right.
It
This
had-
part here, the logs is all showing in there. But we covered it all over with
And this
drywall.
was built, we don't know when.
Don't know when, but this was built
addition.
1850, I've been told.
Uh-huh. And what was the name of the family that you bought? That had
Birdie.
them?
Oh, no, well, Hood, she was a niece of the Birdie.
And you spell that Burdette.
T-T-E.
T-T-E. Do you know,
British Birdie.
do you know what he did in town?
What's that?
What did Mr. Bertie do? It was you have farmers?
Oh, yes, he was farmed. He raised tobacco as the main crop.
Yeah.
But he farmed there for years before. Well, his mother had bought that farm years before, and there was 2 big tobacco houses on there that I tore down. That was in bad shape. And a barrack, but their main crop was tobacco. They didn't raise many stock or anything.
They even raised tobacco in the 1900s?
Oh, yes.
That
Yes.
people were growing tobacco
Oh,
up here?
yes. That's right. Yes.
Did you ever grow tobacco?
No, I never did.
But that was a very hard crop on the soil, wasn't it, tobacco?
Well, I don't know whether it was hard on the soil, but it was a lot of work
Yeah.
to it. And that's, you see, you plant it out, the same as you do tomatoes and things, and you done all that but work by hand, and then you cut it by hand, and then that had to be hauled in and stuck up in the tobacco houses to dry out.
Right. And those tobacco houses, you opened them up some way so that...
Well, either that or fire cured them.
Right.
Now, my grandfather, below, he used to raise tobacco too, but he had 2 or 3 tobacco houses, and he would get a fire. You go in there and make a fire down so the smoke would go up and cure it out. Would cure the tobacco out.
And then you could sell it sooner and you didn't have to let it hang all winter?
Well, I suppose that was right. I was a little bit too young to know just what was the reason for that thing. But I know that's the way they done it.
But in your lifetime, you never grew tobacco?
No.
And most people around here had stopped growing tobacco?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much. I remember one time when I was a good size, my grandfather was raising, and I stripped a couple pieces to do it. I'd say I done it. That's all. Couple stalks.
And that all had to be hand?
Oh, yes,
picked
that was
and-
all hand done. It was good on the stalk, and Johnny got up 3 or 4 feet high, and when after you hang that up and cure it out, then you're taking strip them blades off of it, and it had to be damp weather to do that, so that they wouldn't crumble all up. And then you get a hand and you tie them up in bundles.
Then where did they get the people? Did they hire hands to do all this, or?
Mostly, is Jelly family. A lot of it was family affairs. But over my grandfather's place, my uncle had another house, lived there on the farm, and he that's good. But that was work that you do in wintertime when you couldn't do nothing else.
You would work on the tobacco.
That's right, yeah.
When you were farming, now you had dairy,
Yes.
cattle.
Well, no,
Correct.
at first I didn't. I raised all my herd of cattle while I was renting the place. I never shipped, we made butter. We got up to what we made.
And where would you take your butter then?
It wasn't
You sold it to the grocery stores themselves.
yeah.
You didn't ever take anything into Baltimore or ship it into Baltimore.
No.
You would sell it then at Mount Airy stores? Was Mount Airy bigger then?
Well, it was bigger, but it had local places that bought those kind of things.
What, did you sell other things to Mount Airy? Eggs. And then when did you start doing milk commercial?
After I bought the farm in 41, and I built a cow barn.
I see.
And I just started.
You shipped a little bit to Westwood.
Yeah, the Prince's dairy before that. I started shipping before while I was building the barn and all. After I bought the place, I went to ship the milk.
How many head of cattle did you milk generally?
I had about 15 then, but after I built the cow barn, I got up to, we was milking as high as 30-something head.
Did you do most of these by hand, or did you?
No, after I built the cow barn, my hands, I was done most of the building myself. My hands got so I couldn't, they would go to sleep milking, so
Yeah.
I put a milker in it.
And then did they pick your milk up daily out at the
Oh,
road?
yes, they picked up daily then, and then later on I went to the tank.
Oh, I see. And then how often would they come?
They come every day, yes, because the man used to come there at 5 o'clock in the morning and sit there and wait till I get done milking to take my milk.
If we was done, he'd come a little bit earlier.
Was this Coons Dairy then?
No,
Yeah, that-
we shipped to Washington then.
Was it a co-op? or?
Oh, yeah, Maryland Virginia Milk Producers Association.
That's what you were, and did you always cool the milk, or did that come later?
Oh, yeah, the truth is I didn't have to cool the morning's milk.
We had to cool it with that thing that hangs down.
Well, that was after I went to ship to Washington.
Uh-huh.
You run the water through the ice box, through a cooler, and run the milk over the cooler and cool it.
And that was a part of your barn operation?
Yes, that was in the dairy.
In your new dairy barn. Were a lot of people dairy farmers then?
Yes, it was a lot of, wasn't too big ones then, but every little farm around was shipping milk in.
And then did you grow your field crops to feed the cattle?
Oh, yes, I grew most everything to feed the cattle, except the protein feed. I had to buy that.
And did you have silos or banks silos, or how did you store?
I built a silo there after, but while I was shipping milk too, I raised hogs. I had.
You were feeding them?
Oh, yes.
Would you ship them?
Oh, well, sometimes I had one bunch. I remember when I was renting a place there, I had a bunch of pigs that I raised up and butchered them, and I sold them for 10 cents a pound on the pole, off the pole.
Oh.
I dressed them, everything, and took them to the manor. And Mr. Brown was a huckster manor, and he bought them for 10 cents a pound.
Isn't that something?
In 48, I bought a truck, and I mostly take the hogs.
Into Baltimore?
Baltimore, yeah.
To the market, and then...
And then last year, after West Friendship opened up, we take a Maryland.
Yeah, to the auction, to the livestock auction there. When did that open? After the war, or?
Oh, yes, that was considerable after the war. That was, you don't have that when the livestock opened at West Friendship, do you?
It was opened in the early 60s when we came out here.
Yes, in 48 I bought this pickup, and I know I used to go to Bauman a lot then, and we'd go to take the cattle, it would hold a few cows, and take them down, and we'd go around to the produce market and buy fruit and stuff.
Did you ever get the World War II German prisoners to work on your farm?
Yes, we had them for a couple of times.
A couple of years, or just a couple of times?
A couple of years, but I know one time for thrashing. I know that, we thrashed out of, it had to, it was so wet that it couldn't thrash out of the field, and we had to put wheat in the barn and ricks and things, and then we got a bunch of prisoners to work to help the thrashing.
And you went in to Ellicott City to get your prisoners?
Yes, that's right, we'd have to go down to City again.
And then you brought them out here for the day, and then Mrs. Fleming, did you have to cook? Did you prepare?
He gave me such short notice when thrashing time comes that he got his father, and then he'd come on and say, in an hour's time, have dinner ready.
For how many people? Just like that?
16, 20. They had a great big table in that dining room, and I put them all down on it.
What did you feed them generally?
Usually fried chicken and ham and long string beans, whatever that was.
And they were happy to get it, I'm sure. Now, did any of them speak, did you talk with them? Did they speak English? Or?
Some of them could interpret it, and you could understand, so they could understand what they were learning. And they'd tell the others what to do when you told them.
You never had any trouble with them? They never tried to run away?
No, we never had any trouble. We mostly had them we did have them for solo filling and thrashing. That's the main thing we had them for. But other people did have them for other work too.
Did you ever hear of any problems?
No, we didn't have too much problem around here that I know of. I can remember of them.
And then you had to pay so much an hour to the government for it, and then they got paid a little bit out of that.
That's right, they got a little bit out. I don't remember what the amount was now. But
was Mr. Yingling involved in that? Do you remember John Yingling?
What's that?
Was John Yingling involved in that program? Do you remember?
No, he probably could be, but I don't
You don't remember that. You would go into Hardman's there in Ellicott City?
That's where it is.
Pick them up in a truck?
Well, most of that I don't know how we picked them up, but I think some of them might have picked them up in truck and we got some of them.
Or school buses? Did they bring
Yeah.
them out here in buses sometimes?
I think they mostly used trucks, but then they would bring them out to a certain point and different ones would get some off of each bus.
And then did they wear shirts that had POW on them? Do you remember that? I saw some pictures where
I couldn't
You
like
couldn't
to, wouldn't
remember.
like to say it.
you were
but,
too busy, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. But I think they were dressed in ordinary work clothes.
When you went to school from here into Lisbon, and Mrs. Fleming, you went from Florence, is that where, or Days? But when you moved out here,
I was in
Poplar Springs, did you take a school bus? Was ever in your
a little
time?
truck and put seats on each side of a covered truck. I walked first.
From here to
I walked out
Lisbon?
here and went down.
And you walked too?
No,
Oh,
we
okay.
had, before that we had a Model Model T Ford that we used to ride to Lisbon with.
Do you remember, did you have to pay to ride that school bus?
Oh, yes, what we was talking about, we did have to pay that so much to an individual.
Wasn't a bus, it was just
Well,
a town
a truck,
truck,
uh-huh.
just, seats on the side.
Do you remember at all what you paid, what your parents would have paid?
I think it was $1.50 a week, $1.50 a month or something, I don't know, something like that. But I don't remember.
But when you walked, how far?
It's 2 miles,
2 miles?
yeah, 2 miles to Lisbon.
And the road was, what, hard surfaced at
Oh,
that
yes.
time?
Yes, this
No, this is Mooresville Road was,
No.
and we'd gone out there, the horses buggy, and mud up the horses fell.
On the side roads?
Coming out this road.
Yes, that's it. And that was the year I got out of high school, that was made a hard road.
Watersville? Was,
This
or-
first part, Watersville Road, yes.
About a mile.
Half a mile. I helped to build a half mile of that road. I drove a team of horses there for 6 weeks, hauling the dirt back and forth to the horse scoop.
So, you actually helped work on the roads, the county roads.
Oh,
People
yeah.
who lived adjacent to them
Oh, yeah.
were
yeah.
responsible at that time, because you owned them, I think.
Well, no, we got paid for that. I think we got $15 a week then.
To maintain the road?
No.
Or was that your
was
job?
Just a job. Well, I think I worked on it about 6 weeks to build that half a mile road there. But it was mostly handwork, that is.
Was that in the summer when you were in
just
school?
I got out of school.
Out of high school?
Out of high school in 1930. And that was a drought year. Everything was so dry, we didn't have much.
Like this past summer, very dry
Yes,
summer
it
where
was.
the farmers...
It's very much similar to that. And because I know that fall we put all the corn in solid. We didn't have no corn left. But the next year we had a good wheat crop. We had to hold some things on wheat.
When you were growing up, did you call the road out here Watersville Road, or was that named later on? Did the roads have names, or did you just...
No, yeah, I believe it was Watersville, and this was a Florence Road, I know. They called this a Florence Road then.
You mean 94, or
No, this other road, Hardy Road now, was called Florence Road then.
So the roads had names, most of them, but they've changed?
Yes,
some
they
of them?
did have names, but they changed to a certain extent. Of course, this has always been the Watersville Road, but it never, everybody knew what it was and never
No.
made much mention of it.
Never.
But it used to be signs up here at the corner, and it had, this is Florence Road, I know. And I don't know whether that sign had Watersville Road on it or not, but it was always.
Did you ever hear why Florence was called Florence Road?
No, I
Was
never.
there, your family's never
No, I never
talked
did.
about that?
Of course, my grandfather kept store down there, but I don't know.
That was your grandfather Pickett,
That's right, yes.
and he had just a general merchandise store.
As far as I know, yes.
Is it in the building that's at that
Before my
crossroads?
time, yes, there's a main building there, yes.
There's only one building, I
That's
think,
right,
at that
the
corner.
main store building, and then the next man I knew had him was Mr. Doherty, John Doherty had him,
I see.
but that was it. And then, he had a little store after that, after he closed that up, he had a little store in the house here.
Mr. Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
And was that the way he supported his family, with his store?
Yeah.
He did
yeah.
not farm.
No, well, he did on, my other grandfather bought the other farm from him over here where we was raised on.
Uh-huh.
I have a deed where that was bought from, it was 1890 something, he bought it, and he had it a few years in 1903 or 4, my other
Mr.
grandfather
Pickett
bought it.
did. Mr. Pickett had it for a short period of
Yes.
time.
Mhm.
And then Mr. Fleming, your grandfather Fleming.
That's right, bought it from him.
Did it
I-
have a name? Did you call that farm by a name? The
No,
one that
it wasn't
was-
particular any name I know of, but really that was a spring farm.
That's where the Poplar Spring
That's
is.
right, that was a real
And that's
farm.
where the name was said to have come from, because they called it, were there poplar trees
Oh, yes,
around there?
it was a whole row of poplar trees down there, and that's how he got his name.
Are any of those old poplar trees standing?
No, but it's some come up since
From
that.
there, uh-huh.
Yeah, well, I don't know from it, but that was before my time. They claimed it was a whole row of poplar trees down there.
Mhm.
But there's been poplar trees around other places.
You spoke of chestnut trees. Now, I understand that all the chestnuts died
Yes,
in
but,
the early 1900s.
well, that's right, but these chestnut trees are cut over on my father's farm.
Mhm.
And I remember one of them was so big that they had to take a steam engine to pull it here, this sawmill. But all that lumber framing in that house is made out of was chestnut lumber. I know that. I was big enough to remember that. Besides, see, I was born 1911, I was 1919.
Mhm.
I can remember it, but
Did you ever hear any talk in all your farming about a reaper made by a Dorsey down here at Glenwood? Did anybody ever discuss
no,
that?
but I've heard of that. The reaper was made, but
It was called the Dorsey Self-Raking Reaper. It was before, I guess they had reapers, and then they invented how they had this arm that would come around and rake after it cut it. And I've been doing some research on it, and I know he lived over there on Dorsey Mill Road. It was Owen Dorsey. And I just didn't know whether the old-timers ever talked about it, or you ever heard anything.
No, I never knew nothing about that because most of my time they had with the reapers that was a machine that could have been binded all up.
Well, by then the McCormick Reaper
That's right,
was
McCormick,
the
yeah.
big one. I have read letters. This was in 1850 that Dorsey,
Oh, yes,
that
well,
Owen Dorsey was doing this. And
That's probably, you're right on that.
And the dealer in Montgomery County was writing to the McCormick Company in Chicago, complaining about Owen Dorsey cutting in on his territory and selling his own reapers. They were selling for $135 at that time. Owen Dorsey was selling his reaper for that. So but I haven't been able to find very much. It's so obscure. You know. I don't know if anybody has an old Dorsey reaper sitting in their shed somewhere. You know, it would be interesting.
They put some of these over,
I
but
don't
I
know
never.
West Mississippi Farm is in like
Whether they have anything. I've always
They
meant
have
to
them
call
there,
it
but
that.
whether they're that kind, I wouldn't know.
Right. I have a sketch of what the Dorsey Reaper looked like from somebody who's done some research on them. When did the first Fleming in your family come into Howard County? Was it your grandfather? Do you know?
Mm.
In the family Bible.
When was my grandfather was come
What
over from
was his
Carroll
name?
County.
Oh,
He come over from Carroll County and bought this farm.
with the one that the brick house was built on?
No, the one over.
From Mr. Pickett?
No,
No?
no, it's on over off the Watersville Road, off the Bloom Road now it's called. But he come over and bought that.
Oh, okay. Is this an extra copy? Or no? Okay.
Yeah.
The grandparents of Jj Fleming.
That's my grandfather.
Your grandfather was Jj Fleming?
That's right.
And so it was...
No, wait a minute now. I'm totally wrong. Now I see it come from Sweden, man. That goes back farther than that. Now my grandfather had a canning factory there, and candied corn. There's a date on there when he used that, and that's a label.
And that was Watersville?
Well,
Where
it's
was
between
that?
here and Watersville, but they use it.
Well, is there a Watersville today?
Oh, yes.
That's Carroll County?
Yeah, that's in Carroll County. But this is over in Howard County.
Do you know where that was? He
Oh,
did it
yes.
right on his farm?
Yes, indeed.
He packed, what was it, tomatoes or beans?
Tomatoes and corn and all like that.
What were they packing them in, tins or glass?
And they soldered them by hand. That's how my father learned to solder.
Oh, and is this the only label that you have?
That's right. He
Hand-packed?
salvaged a few of them.
Now, Fleming this was your grandfather, and sons was
That's right,
your
my
father
father.
and
Mhm.
his brothers
That's right.
were part of it. And so they were Swedish. Fleming is...
That's right, but this is, I think he's going, this is the
the
grandparents.
of J.J.
Yes, that's
Now,
right.
J.J. Fleming was your grandfather.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it says, all families met in America. The parents of J.J. Fleming, one family settled in Carroll County. J.J. Fleming had 7 brothers and 2 sisters. John Joseph Fleming was married to Hannah
That's
Driver.
my grandfather.
Yes, Hannah Driver,
That's right.
daughter of the Reverend
That's
Washington.
Washington.
Washington
Yes.
Driver of near Poplar Springs, a local preacher. So that's how you got involved with Poplar Springs, because your grandfather married the daughter of the preacher here?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And then did they move here? J.J. and Pete Fleming, a brother, all the material for the church, in the building of the first Watersville church.
That's right, yeah.
Did he serve that church and Poplar Springs on the circuit?
That I couldn't tell you. No, I don't think, because that was a Methodist Episcopal church, and this was a Methodist Protestant church.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But they did go back and forth.
The church that did he build the church here in Poplar Springs too? Or it was just the one at
The
Watersville?
Watersville,
Well,
yeah.
what church was he the pastor of here, of near Poplar Springs?
Mm.
Daughter of the Reverend Wash Driver of near Poplar Springs, a local preacher who served the Watersville church. Okay, so he didn't serve a church here, he
And
served
that's how
one
he
in
served the
Watersville.
Watersville church, yes.
Do you know anything about that minister?
No, I don't.
Whether he ended up around here, the drivers?
Oh,
No, there's a
the
driver
family
road.
still is here. The family descendants are still here.
There's a driver road off Marriottsville Road down there.
And here's something different from
And what is that for?
usually the whole book of it.
Oh, here's a history of Poplar Springs.
Who, where would you read? Not the
On our
home.
farm,
Oh, no, they are buried over on the Ingalls farm, their family. The next farm had one.
it wasn't on
No, it wasn't on the farm. But right down here, just across the road here, the second house, they did have a plot there, because when years ago they plowed it up. The stones was there, but they plowed it. And wasn't nobody that knew of anything about it in the neighborhood.
All right, now it says the Poplar Springs Good Templar Lodge was organized in 1890 by Thomas Maxwell and Thomas Hood of Alpha. Did any of your people belong to this
Oh,
lodge?
yes. Oh,
Oh, that was like a temperance lodge.
that's right, that's what it was. Yeah.
So you good Methodists were doing your temperance, right?
That's right, yeah.
But did you belong to
Oh,
that
yeah,
lodge?
yeah.
But it's not active any longer?
it.
No, but it,
People all died out, and then the young people...
the young people
were
wouldn't take part in it and
Right.
magazine. But
So-
it's still it's a community hall now,
Oh, it is.
and it's we built a scout building, but it's always be in the community. It can never be.
And it started from the Good Templar Lodge.
Yes, right.
They're the
yeah.
ones who built it. The cornerstone was late 1891.
That's right. It's down there on. You can see it yet. It's down there on there.
It says east of Poplar Springs was a large hotel and tavern. Now that's the one that you said
That's right.
burned up here to meet the train. It says and bring 7 people at a time to the hotel.
That's right.
Then they go back and get some more. He sometimes made several trips. Some people walked when the weather was good.
That's right.
Okay. Now, this is your brother who wrote some of
He had
that.
it, I think he had it fixed up.
See, because Poplar Springs is so much older, we don't have that history that goes way back to
That's right.
1700.
That's right.
But it's shown on the map. I have this map, and it shows there are no other communities, but it shows Poplar Springs, and it shows the little community of Hilton, which is gone now. So I've always been curious as to why there was a community here, except that we know that the Ellicotts laid out a road to Frederick in the 1790s. Jonathan Ellicott was the superintendent, and the people who lived along the road helped to pay to build the road out to Frederick. And then that became more popular than the old Frederick Road, which is now kind of deteriorated, and, it's 99, Route 99.
Now, his great-great-grandfather was born in 1797.
That's not JJ, that was Jj
John
Fleming,
Joseph E.
and he was born
He
in
was born in 1797.
where was he born? The great.
I don't know where he was
Oh,
born.
in Carroll County somewhere, but I
Okay,
don't know.
so the Flemings came into Howard County from Carroll County,
Yeah,
and JJ was your grandfather.
That's right.
Was the first
that's right.
Fleming here, and then he married the minister's daughter.
That's right.
Is that how you all happen to be Methodist? Now, then after you got married, do you still go to the Methodist church? But you go where? That's Carroll County too. Because you're so close to Carroll County, I guess it's closer for you to go there.
Yeah, I've always gone there all my life and we got married.
Now, how about Lisbon? Did you go to shop in Lisbon? Did they have more stores there at one time?
One, Miss Molly store.
Molly
We always
Food,
went there.
she
She had a
said.
little grocery store, and we'd go to school. We'd go up there and get crackers and cheese and have some apples, something like that. For lunch there at the store.
But did they ever have hardware stores or much
Not that I
shopping?
know of, the Woodbine, that's over in Carroll
Yeah,
County. See.
right.
Woodbine was always hardware store over there.
So did you go into Ellicott City to shop?
No, not much. Well, we used to go to Bauman when you buy a suit of clothes or something. The last time I guess I was at Bauman, it was my wedding suit. Father and mother took me down to buy my wedding suit.
You went there, did you go by train then, or did you
No,
go by automobile?
no, we went by automobile and go down to my aunt's in Baltimore, and she'd take us in on a streetcar. Because a lot of we didn't know the way around in Baltimore.
Oh, no, right. But now, do you ever go into Baltimore now?
Very seldom anymore for
Bus
buying anything.
You still go into Carroll County more. Do you go to Westminster to shop? Frederick, right. So Lisbon, even in your time, never had that much of a...
No, as far as I know. There's a blacksmith shop and grocery general store there, grocery store, where they didn't have
That was about
anything.
it.
Well, they had some, you might say, some hardware things too, but
So the Flemings, your grandfather, this was JJ, who had the canning factory.
that's right. He raised on the farm there and canned it right there on the farm.
From 1890 to 1905.
That's right.
But it was gone in your lifetime then. You
Oh
never-
yeah, I know. I remember seeing the places there where they used it.
Did they have big sheds that they did
No,
this in?
well, they had a fairly big shed, but they only had one big round kettle that they cooked it in, and they bought it from the bottom. I seen that.
And then how did he market it? Where did he sell them?
Well, they went to Baltimore or somewhere.
Did
They
he?
shipped them on a train, haul them in.
Oh, they did ship
Yeah,
by
they
train.
labeled them and all, and that was a label that we found.
Isn't that something? All right, that's neat. Very nice. Where is Jj Fleming buried? He's
At Morton Chapel.
at Morgan Chapel.
Yeah.
And that's a Methodist
Yes.
church?
Yes.
Well, now Swedes were usually Lutheran, but you never been a Lutheran.
No.
You are Swedish descent then.
Yes.
Ah.
According to these records, that's the only thing we know.
Fleming married a driver, though, and then on the other side, the Picketts were German?
I don't know
On your
what they
mother's
were.
side? Would that be
I don't know what they were.
odd?
Pickets and drivers.
Uh,
Now, see, my great grandmother was a Bauman.
Bauman, that's not this woman.
That's
His mother was Elizabeth
Yeah, Bauman, yeah.
Bauman Pickett. Now, what was his first name? Charles?
Charles D. Pickett.
Was that the same Bauman that was up here on 144 that Mrs. Fleming was dating a Pickett, a Bauman?
That died?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no,
How
that's way down, I guess.
Might have been the same family, or?
Well, they was related,
Uh-huh.
but just how I don't know.
No. You have to look at the family tree to...
That's right,
Find all the
and I
connections.
don't know anything about their family tree.
Okay, in here it says all canned goods were sold local and also in Baltimore and Washington. In 1905, the Flemings joined a new project, the dairy business, shipping milk to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's where.
So your grandfather was in the dairy business also?
Yeah, boy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then your father?
From there he hauled milk to Watersville and put it on the train.
Before long, dairy business became a thing. They had to milk the cows and cool the milk in spring water, and met the 7 o'clock train at Watersville, the B&O.
Yeah, that's where he took his milk to Watersville.
And then he dropped the canning after the dairy business took over, it says here.
Yeah,
The children-
I think he did, yeah.
Children
well,
were
I
all
think
grown.
the reformers, I imagine what the reformers come up be like it is today.
Yes. Plus, it said that the children were grown
Yeah.
and raising their own families. Then Jj Fleming lived on the farm the rest of his life,
Yes.
and their children worked together at crop time.
Yes, well, see, thrashing time, all that, we all go there and do the work.
I see.
Butchering time, thrashing time.
You'd all get together and help one another. You
That's
just
right.
go from farm to farm.
Farm, yeah. And my grandfather, he said he lived his whole life. He was about to move out here to Pauper because my uncle and my aunt, see, my uncle's wife, he was carpenting in New York, and his wife died. And he brought his 3 children back here. They were small. And grandmother and Aunt Floyd, that's my aunt, raised them.
Mm-hmm.
And these children was all grown, but then my aunt and uncle was building a house out here, and he planned to come out here with them. But he died before he got out here.
He died in 1933.
That's
Now,
right.
So he lived in Watersville,
That is between here and Watersville.
okay, and that's where the canning was.
That's
But
right,
it was
yeah.
actually in Howard County.
That's right, yeah. That's all in Howard County. But he was 81 years old.
Oh.
He worked there up till my uncle would crop some fields out that was working with him, and then he went up and helped cut wheat on the road to Binder.
Uh-huh.
And it come a rain, and he went in the barn building there and sat down, and I don't know, somehow anyway, he cut an active pneumonia and died.
Oh, my.
And
is
that was the time of the big flood on July the 1st. And washed his wheat all down to Woodbine.
That was in 1933?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
It,
He was on the Patapsco, that near the Patapsco River?
Yes, right, yes. That's on the upper end. And they found a lot of his wheat that he washed down to Woodbine. It was all in shocks the 1st of July. And then we went out, had to go over there and set this all out, and leaving a lot of it was cut the band so it would dry out, and thrashed it then, and it was a lot of dirt and dust in it.
You remember working on that?
Oh yeah, I helped to do that, yeah. That was 1933.
Here's some of your family tree. Okay, this is the same as this here. This is the copy.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's another one
Yeah.
of the cannon. This is the church cemetery history. Oh, here's some more pictures
Oh,
in here.
that's my grandfather.
That's John Joseph. Right, you weren't even going to show me him, huh? You were hiding John Joseph history.
book that,
And this is cousin, John Fleming, I told you built the house. This is his 3 children.
His children. He had 3 boys, and in your family you had 3 boys.
That's right. And that's him. And see, his wife died young. She died when this one was born.
Well, then did he remarry?
No, he never did.
Who raised those children then? Did his mom?
Well, that's what it says. His grandfather. These people raised him. He come back and lived with them.
His parents.
Yes, his parents come back and lived with him. And his sister never married. That's her in Florida. She never married. She lived with them and takes care of them.
That's often the way it happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, aren't these nice?
Now this is
George
this is George and Edgar. This is the 2 oldest of the 3 back there.
Of
and
these?
this is
Are these the same children?
yeah.
George and Edgar.
Yes.
They were your cousins then?
That's right. Yeah. And now this is another cousin. This is Clarence Fleming. Joseph Callan Fleming. She was another brother. And this is George. This is one here. Now this is Joe and Clarence. This is Joe, and this is Clarence. He's still living.
Oh, I see.
He's still living.
Now these are cousins of the
Yes, all cousins.
Okay.
All cousins.
And these were all their grandchildren.
That's right. Yeah, all
And
grand.
how many children did they have, Joseph?
They had
Let's see what could say in the family.
Uncle Clarence, Uncle Harry, Uncle John, and Papa. 4 boys and 4 men.
one girl.
No, Aunt Maggie and Aunt
Oh, I
Flora.
didn't
And I think it was one died in a child. Now, this is, I don't really know who they are.
That's
me.
you. Right. And now Charles Joseph, was that your brother?
That's my older brother. He's still living.
Okay.
And there's another picture of him, 6 months old. And this
He's
is
older than you.
That's right. And this is one I told when his mother, when he was a baby, his mother died.
Mm-hmm. And Harry.
Now this is my brother that died, lived over here, and he
That's
actually
your
come in school. This is one of my school pictures, and that's my brother just before he died. He was living over here, 63.
That's cute.
And let's see, this is
Shirley and Leon.
oh yeah, that's another cousin in that family. And I was
That's
getting
you.
when I was
3rd birthday.
yeah.
Isn't that cute? All those curls. And you still got all that curly hair, don't you? And there you
Now,
are.
you don't know who that is.
Yes, I do. Oh, that's your 25th anniversary. Gee, you hadn't changed much from when you were married, really, at that time, because your hair hadn't started to gray. You still look so young.
Now this is my mother and father's wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's theirs.
And this is my mother and father. That was 22.
And here you are with there's your car.
That's right,
too.
yeah.
That's before you had the children.
Mhm.
Those are nice.
That's another cousin, my aunt. She married Ross. She's the one who was in Bauman. Now, let's see, all our birth certificates.
Right, those are just copies. Now that's a certificate. Oh, that's your wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, better hold on to that, huh? Nobody would believe it, huh?
We take the family reunion every year.
Do you? And they update it?
To it, they add to it.
Oh, that's very
Well,
nice.
my son has a paper, what is it, 4 feet by 8 foot long, I guess, of
Showing
all
the whole
family
tree.
trees.
Oh,
A
that's-
family tree on it.
That's nice because you got to keep it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Now that's
it's too
something,
hard.
you
Yeah.
might find something in there. Well, that's just my
That's
family.
your branch of the family.
Mhm, mhm.
Now, who's Charles and?
That's my
Gervais?
brother. And Gervais, that was prepared by them too.
Who's Gervais? Was that his
She was,
wife?
That,
Is that a woman?
Wife of that one.
that was George Fleming's wife. She was a green from down to Annapolis Rock.
All right. Oh, Annapolis Rock. Is that still in existence?
Yeah.
The rock?
Still there.
What? Were you supposed to be able to see Annapolis if you climbed up on the rock? Is that
Oh,
what
yeah,
the
the
story-
rock is, no, it's the rock still there, but they used to blast it and haul it away, but they stopped them from doing it.
I know where it's at.
Why did they call it Annapolis Rock?
It's on Annapolis Road. Long there by Annapolis
Yeah, I
Road.
guess it was on Annapolis Road.
Oh, okay. Do you all remember Tridelphia before it was flooded? Did you ever
No,
go
I
down?
don't remember
You
that.
never went? That's a little bit out of your...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more up that way.
Right, right.
He can tell you more back down this way.
Right.